The ecosystem. It's one of the main reasons to buy an Apple product in the first place. Sure, the MacBooks, iPhones, and iPads are great, but like Voltron, when you combine them together, they can be so much more. So what is the most actually useful Apple ecosystem that you can buy? Let's find out. We'll slam this. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. A very clear point that I want to make about this particular video is we're not going to try to keep things within any certain budget. I'm talking about cost agnostic. What do I think of as the functionally most useful ecosystem for someone doing either office type tasks or somebody that's looking to be a creator here on YouTube or other video type platforms? And if you know me, you know that those are the only two things that I do throughout any part of a day. Now, one of the things that I could do to make this very easy on myself, both in the script, the video editing, and everything else about this video, is I could just pick the most expensive things in every product lineup, call it the most useful, put a bow on it, and a cool thumbnail, call it a day. But that's not a very useful video then, is it? See, even the video is part of the useful ecosystem. It's like a video within a video. So first off, let's start with the brain of the system. And since we have a little more money today, here I am going to consider the brain to be a computer. A laptop in this case. And yes, though we have theoretically infinite funds, I'm going to put the base model MacBook Pro 14 as the most useful Apple computer. Sure, there is a ton of more power if we spec this out or if we get the MacBook Pro 16, but for either the full-time office worker or the full-time video creator, I think the balance of price to performance perfectly lines up with this computer. You'll still get the 8-core M1 Pro processor, 16 gigabytes of unified memory, a 14-core GPU, and a 512 gigabyte solid-state drive. Now, you might not think that that's enough for any of the kinds of work that I've mentioned, but look, office workers, we've had enough power forever, and I'll clearly state to any comer that I've been running this YouTube channel from an M1 Mac Mini for almost a year now, and that has a weaker processor and GPU combination than this laptop, and it's been seamlessly working since it first came out. This computer has all of the power even a power user could want. But I am going to go with this laptop instead of the MacBook Air or the M1 MacBook Pro 13 for a couple of reasons. One, it has the far more useful port selection than any other MacBook. You get HDMI, Thunderbolt 4, and an SD card slot. That's basically the perfect amount of I/O because it will let you use this both as a laptop, but you can also turn it into a desktop computer without really needing any adapters or any dongles. Two, if you do want to use this as a desktop computer, you can get 3 external monitors here instead of a single monitor that you can with the standard M1 Max. 3, the display is absolutely gorgeous, and once you start using it, you get totally spoiled on it and you won't want to use anything else. I also think compared to the MacBook Pro 16, you're saving a ton of usable space. Now, I am a big fan of that big laptop, but if you are trying to have something that's more useful because it will more easily fit into spaces where you might be trying to work, the smaller laptop is the better. Have you ever tried using a 16 or 17-inch laptop on an airplane's tray table? Yeah, it sucks. It doesn't work very well at all. Bottom line, this is easily the most useful laptop in all of the Apple lineup. Next up, I am going to include an iPad here, and I don't think I did so in the last most useful ecosystem, and that's solely because this iPad mini did not exist then, and I am talking about that brand new iPad mini. Now, an iPad and a MacBook can seem a little redundant if you need to use either of these for work. I mean, you can't use both at the same time, right? Well, that's where you're wrong. iPads of any stripe are such a good companions to Mac, and I would say they are a far better choice than having a Mac and then another Mac. As somebody that has a ton of Macs, just trust me on that. This will also tie in a little bit with another device in the lineup here in just a second. It's almost like that ecosystem is totally intertwined. But back to the iPad mini itself. No, it's not the flashiest or most expensive of the iPads, but after using this for a couple of months, I'm sold on it. The thing about the Mini is it really delivers on the promise of an iPad more than any other iPad I've ever seen. If you need a smaller screen, you've got your phone, and if you need the biggest screen you've got, you can use your Mac. I've always found that because the screen sizes between my bigger iPads and my MacBooks were so similar, a lot of the times the iPad just wasn't worth bringing because of how much hassle it was to carry around. But the iPad Mini pretty much totally fixes that. You'll get the latest A15 processors, 64 gigabytes of space, and a USB-C port to go along with that MacBook. And the best part of all is the new updates from iPad OS. You'll be able to use this for watching videos or browsing content, yes, but the key here that this is one of the best calendaring device on the planet. I love managing my calendar with an iPad. If you haven't yet done so, I highly recommend it. Just being able to actually tap and move all of the things that you need to track, so good. And 2, you will essentially always have dual monitors wherever you go because of Sidecar. In a tiny backpack, you can have a fully established productivity system that you can do from an actual home work setup, and it's something that you can carry with you everywhere. I love the combination of these two things. And something else that I think is important to note about the Mini is that in this entire ecosystem, I would slate the iPad mini as the dedicated teleconferencing device. The MacBook and the iPhone we'll talk about here in a second, sure, they can do that, but the Mini has that wide-angle camera with Apple's center stage, and it's basically the perfect little collaboration tool. You might be noticing a theme here today that even though there are quote-unquote better options that are more expensive within the same space, I think the smaller, more portable, more easy-to-set-up tech is really the most useful. He says that and then does a total 180-degree move with his cell phone recommendation. Hear me out. Yes, I agree. Size is important for making sure that you can carry all this stuff around without causing yourself soft tissue damage, but making sure it can run all day long without needing to bring along a lot of extra junk, that's kind of important too. All of that extra junk can also cause soft tissue damage if you have a backpack full of junk. That didn't make any sense. So for the phone, I will be sticking with the Pro Max this year, and specifically the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Yes, it's big. Yes, it's heavy, but its battery basically never dies. And in a work environment, that's exactly what you need in a phone. And laptop too, but the MacBook Pro 14 has wonderful battery life, so we don't need to worry about that today. The iPhone 13 Pro Max is easily the most useful of the iPhone 13 lineup, despite it also being the most expensive. You get the best screen, the best battery life, the best power, the best cameras, the best everything. I mean, the phone is going to double as our connectivity on the go, and it will allow each of these other devices to use it as a hotspot. Plus, it's just great. I'm having a really hard time thinking of a counter argument that doesn't rely solely on the price as the problem. As somebody that spends the majority of their day on phone calls and web conferencing, having a phone that just never stops, never quits, it's just not even something you ever have to worry about. That's very important. And tangentially, if you are somebody looking for an ecosystem for, say, YouTube or other online platforms, the 13 Pro Max is basically an all-in-one production studio. You can take fantastic photos, do really nice video, edit it on the phone, and upload it from wherever. This phone by itself is its own little ecosystem. And look, cell phones are not my favorite part of consumer technology, so getting one that just works and I never have to worry about, that easily earns it a spot in this most useful of ecosystems. Okay, I would say that that's the main bones of this system we're building today. You've got your computer, scheduling tool, and a phone. Yes, it's going to be pretty pricey, but I don't think you'll get more capabilities anywhere else. There are a few other things I would tie in here as the complete package before we call it a day though. First off, and the still undisputable champions of the headphone world, the AirPods Pro. I recommend these all of the time, and even if you weren't making a whole ecosystem, I would still say these plus whatever else you're going to get on the list and you are golden. These will pair instantly with any of this tech that we already talked about, and it will allow you to take your meetings anywhere thanks to the noise cancellation built right in. The sound is decent enough, they are light enough to fit in a pocket, they have great battery life, and they can save you and your family from driving each other crazy if you all happen to be working in the same house. Ask me how I know that. Yes, I tried the new Beats Fits Pro, the new Beats headphones, but after a couple of weeks, I still have to give it to the AirPods Pro. I had a pair die recently, but that was after 2 solid years of use, and as an avid runner, that set got abused. The fact that they lasted as long as they did with as many hundreds of miles as I put on them impressed the heck out of me, and I'll continue recommending these until Apple comes out with something else that's just as impressive. And finally, I do think the Apple Watch still deserves a part in any of these ecosystems, sheerly for the fact of how convenient it is to check notifications while in meetings and not come across as somebody totally divorced from what's going on, which is a terrible look, by the way. As it's currently the top of the line in the lineup, I will put the Series 7 up here for the one to get for the most useful ecosystem. Technically, it's not much different than the Series 6, so if you already have one of those, I don't know that I would buy another one if I were putting together a tech kit, but I do really like the increased screen real estate. Sure, that difference sounds small if you're reading the spec on their website, but because of how small the watch is, any increase will make it seem bigger than you think, and it will shock you how big the screen actually feels now. And I've got the smaller version. I assume that the bigger faced watch will feel like a darn iPhone at this point. But at the end of the day, so what, right? Look, I legitimately think that if you are trying to build out a personal technology ecosystem, what we've built today is by far the most useful set of gadgets you can own. All right, and we've been dancing around it a little bit today, so let's talk about what kind of damage we're doing to our wallet here. MacBook Pro 14, $19.99. iPad Mini, $4.99. iPhone 13 Pro Max, $10.99. AirPods Pro, $2.49. And Apple Watch Series 7, $3.99. That's a grand total of $42.45. Oh my oh my goodness. That is not cheap, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend that everyone out there go rush out and buy this all at once. You can build towards this over the course of a couple of years if need be. But I stand by this set of recommendations. If you are looking at buying the most useful of all the Apple ecosystems that you can buy regardless of cost, I think this is the best. Not only is the gear great individually, but when you combine them all together, they will absolutely be better than the sum of their parts. And if you like this video, but you are looking for something a little less expensive, good news! I've also recently updated my cheapest Apple ecosystem video, and that will build you something for under $1,000. And you can find that by clicking right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.